And welcome to the Tapping In Workshop Part 6. I welcome you all today and thank you for joining me. I hope you all had a good weekend and are ready to learn about how to attract and grow the market in your region, mainly the southwest region of WA. So, I'm Lisa and I will be going through today's webinar with you. I would like to do an acknowledgement of country first up and go over the 30-foot drop funding. 30-foot drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and the community. We pay our respects to the Indigenous people, their cultures and beliefs, to the elders both past and present. 30-foot drop funding. 30-foot drop would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives. Without their support, so many projects such as the Two Wise Monkeys project wouldn't be out there and wouldn't see the light of day, so we thank them very much for this funding. This workshop is part of a Realities and Advantages of an Access and Inclusion grant awarded to 30-foot drop as a Information Linkages and Capacity Building grant for 2018 and 2019. Let's firstly go over some housekeeping on how the workshops are run. Unfortunately, we do not have all the resources to monitor all of our live streaming platforms. So what that means is if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, you can't send me a direct message through those platforms, but you can by following the link below this video, which is www.30footdrop.com.au/live. You can send me a direct message through there if you have any questions. We'll be covering a lot of information in a short period of time. So we ask and recommend attendees try and minimize any distractions, and we understand that that can be quite difficult at this time with some people still working at home, kids at home and stuff like that, so just try your best. Grab yourself a pen and paper, grab yourself a coffee, take notes, and so 30-foot drop records every live session, so it's all recorded, and if you wanted to go back on anything you can watch it once I've hit the end button. And as well, if you talk about us or you want to share our information, please tag us in it. The more people that can know about what we're doing, the better we're going to be as human beings, and the community will hopefully make these changes. And now, all of the information that I speak about in all the webinars is all available on our website in greater detail. So if there's something you want to look more into, follow this link, go to the 30-foot drop website, and you can look at all the information on there. There's loads of information and links and stuff that will give you what you need to be able to take some next steps for a better future for people with impairment and disability. At the end, we do have a short webinar that we would really love if you guys could fill that out. It's only a few questions. Once again, it's following that link below this video, pressing tapping in part 6 survey and filling it out. What's next? Presenter introductions. Now, as I said, I am Lisa and I am Hear No Evil. Through me, hopefully after today, you'll hear no evil about impairment. The other monkey is Ben and he is See No Evil. And through Ben, I hope that you will see no evil about impairment. Today it's just me, so I will be telling you my story, and when you see Ben next, he will tell you his story. So I was born 30-something years ago, 10 weeks premature. And with premature births, there can be complications. So it wasn't until 8 years old that they realised, or I was tested for dyslexia, and I had dyslexia. So teachers used to hit me on the head, yell at me, read out my low marks, make me feel completely dumb and unworthy in front of all my classmates. It was so horrible. But despite these challenges growing up, I was so determined to prove them wrong and succeed and do well. So I tried really hard. I did it with extra help in the morning before school, which at 8 I absolutely hated. But when you have a learning disability, you do have to work that extra mile, and it's really dumb that your friends don't have to do it and all of that, and you kind of don't understand, well, why me? But it's just something you have to do if you want to get to where you need to be, and it is important to get to where you need to be, but it's not the be all and end all if you're not the most amazing speller or the most amazing mathematician. You'll have a passion that you will find if you haven't already found it, and you will be good at something that probably you will be better than someone else. I found that my passion was art. When I was 13, I realised that, hey, I'm actually okay at art, and the teacher would hold up my artwork and show the class. I even had one teacher not believe that I had drawn what I'd drawn and maybe sit down and draw it again in front of them. All sorts of things. So that is where my life went. I went with being creative. I paint, I draw, I take photos, I have a photography business, and I've worked all around the world in art galleries, organising exhibitions. I've done picture framing for 12 years, where I can work with museum grade artworks. I have a certificate in working with fine art, all sorts of things. So don't let dyslexia or a learning disability or any impairment get in the way of who you want to be and what you want to do. And don't let those people bring you down, because we can't all be good at everything. And it just takes a little more time and effort for someone with a learning disability to get there. But believe me, you will get there once you find that passion and once you find what it is you're good at. So that is me. Now, when you look at the monkeys, isn't there supposed to be 3 wise monkeys? There's see no evil, there's hear no evil, but who is speak no evil? You guys can take a guess today of who speak no evil is. You guys. So the aim of today's workshop is to turn you into that wise monkey. You will begin on a journey of realizing, impairment or not, we are all human and deserve to be treated and acknowledged in the same way as everyone else. So it's such an important message. We all deserve to be treated equally and fairly. There's no reason why someone with a disability or impairment should be treated any differently. And if you really did want to become that third wise monkey, we have these gorgeous t-shirts available on our website, so you can become Speak No Evil. And they're available in black and white, as you see behind me, and they come in sizes 5 child size to 5XL adult size. So if you really like them, grab yourself one. They're on the website today. So let's go over the outline and method of today's workshop. So how are we going to get you started on the path of a wise monkey? Well, there's a lot to learn about people with impairment and their potential impact on your business. Today's session is all about how businesses can meet the specific needs of this market in order to tap into their business and create change and inclusive ideas. We'll finish off and focus on tourism and events by having a look at the future. The southwest of Australia has the potential to grow this market, and we'll have a look how we can do this and how it can be accomplished. To finish the session, we normally have an open forum session where you can jump on and send any questions that you may have about today or about any other issue you want to speak about. So how are we going to cover this? What will our teaching method be? The answer is fun, open and honest discussion. If we can't be open and honest about disability and impairment, then how can we make the changes? How can we be heard? We need to be more heard. If you've got an issue with a business or service by how they treated you, or they weren't inclusive, or they didn't have the things that you needed, as far as if you were in a wheelchair or a mobility issue, let them know. In a nice way, let them know. Because we can't make these changes unless people are made aware, and that's why we're here. Okay, so You'll notice as well that there is very little written content on the slides, and that is because we are all here to interact with each other. We don't want it to be complicated. We don't want too much wording where you're trying to keep up with it. It's nice and easy and it just flows. As well, it makes it easy for people with an impairment or disability that are watching. It makes it easy for them to follow and understand it as well. And if you do have a hearing impairment, you can now jump onto the platform Facebook and turn the sound down, and it comes up with the subtitles. So that's a great new thing that Facebook have done, and let's hope that other platforms follow along with that too. So I'm now going to go over some terminology with you guys, and this is the difference between disability and impairment and access and inclusion. First, I'll talk about impairment. An impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a loss of difference in psychological or physiological function. In short, your impairment is your medical diagnosis. So my medical diagnosis when I was 8 was dyslexia. A disability, on the other hand, is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others due to social and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable to access or participate in something. So an example for someone like me would be too much wording, stylized script, complex information can sometimes make it hard for people with dyslexia or learning disabilities to understand and grasp it, which then makes it hard for us to get the right information that we need to use your business or service. So this becomes especially important information because some people's impairments are hidden and they are potentially missing out on your business or service because they're not quite understanding, or it's too complicated for them to try and figure out. So you need your websites and your marketing and all those sorts of things to be clear and not too complicated. So I hope the difference between disability and impairment makes sense to you. I'll now go over access and inclusion. Access refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, physical and attitudinal, to participate in the activities and functions of a community. At its core, it focuses a lot on the physical world around us and can be assessed with a checklist. So if you own a cafe and you're wondering whether your premises is accessible, are your door frames wide enough, are the door handles at a good level, all sorts of little things that you can go around and check. And if you want to check, we do have a checklist on our website. We have an accessibility checklist where you can go around your business and double check, yes, the door handles are at a good level for someone in a wheelchair or short stature. Make sure your doors aren't too heavy for someone with a mobility issue to open. All these sorts of things that you can just go over and make these small changes that will make someone with a disability or impairment feel so much better and included. So that's access. Now let's go over inclusion. Inclusion is more of a psychological state of being and is the process whereby every person, irrespective of their age, disability, gender, religion, sexual preference, or nationality, who wishes to, can fully participate in all aspects of an activity or service in the same way as everyone else, helping them to feel included in the community. So it is so important that no matter how someone looks, no matter where they're from, what their disability is, they are included into your business or service. Everyone needs to feel included in every single aspect of your business. Not, someone in a wheelchair, oh sorry, you have to come through the kitchen to use our restaurant because you can't get in the front door because it's not accessible. That's not inclusive. So little things to think about, and you can go through our lists of what we have and make sure that you are accessible, inclusive, stuff like that. So that is the terminologies of those words, and I hope that they made sense to you. Now we will get into the nitty-gritty of today's outline. And first up, we're going to look at the specific needs of the market. In session 5, we discussed the similarities between travellers with impairment and the rest of the population, showing that there is much of an overlap. Despite the similarities to the general population, there are some important differences and specific needs we all need to talk about. Travellers with impairment have a strong tendency to manage stresses and uncertainties of travel by returning to destinations that they know well. Consequently, they appear to have a higher rate of repetitive visitation to businesses that support their needs, meaning they are very loyal customers. So if you can make those changes and support their needs, then they're going to be very loyal customers to your business. The Accessible Tourism in Victoria and Queensland report found that there are 3 main subjects which are areas specific to their needs, which can be used to attract this market. These are information, planning, and service. Let's now go over these 3 needs that need to be looked at. First up is information. Travellers with an impairment need more support in planning their experiences if they are to travel as much as they wish to. Overall, more detail in the information part that is currently being provided is the highest priority. And also you've got to make the experience enjoyable rather than a stressful one, because who wants to go on holiday that is stressful? It's become too hard, the information's not there, you become stressed out and you don't want to go. So particularly for those with limited mobility. While this mostly relates to digital resources and information not being available on websites and site reviews, it can also refer to information anywhere that the travellers look, including destinations and overseas travel. More than just having long documents with complex information, we need information that is relevant. Most places already have different measures in place. Let them know by putting it on your website and your profiles, such as TripAdvisor and Expedia. As well, make the information easy to find and easy to absorb. This especially relates to accessible tourism information, which is quite often not prominently displayed and can be very complex. So if you don't have that information on your website where it's easy to find, say on your main menu, then people are going to think that you're not inclusive and you're not accessible and you don't have the things that they need, and they'll probably jump onto the next website. So make sure that you use a symbol or something like that so that people are aware straight away that you have accessible premises and that you are inclusive, because then people are going to look further and want to book with you. Okay. As we discussed in the previous session, this is a decisive market segment and people with impairment are more likely to stop a transaction or discourage others from using your business because their needs weren't met. So something to think about. People with impairment and disability are twice as likely to tell all their friends and families that you weren't inclusive or accessible, because they're really let down, so they're going to tell everyone. So another thing to be aware of. Information needs to be well structured rather than a 50-page document with all the information on it, because this can be frustrating and very overwhelming for a lot of people with impairments. Look at breaking it down into smaller and logical parts. For example, one part on how to let the business or service know what you need, and then another part where people can access your ramps, toilets and Acknowledgement bays. So how people can access them. Maybe have a map on there. Let them know where everything is, so that then they can say, oh well, yeah, let's go there because it's quite easy to get to the premises or to the accessible toilets. Information needs to be relatable when choosing accommodation, attractions and experiences, including a range of images that cover impairments would help potential people with impairments feel that they are choosing an option or place they feel comfortable going to. So you could use people with impairment or disability within your marketing to promote that you are accessible and you are inclusive, and they feel inclusive because you've done that. As we discussed earlier, you can relate to the marketing when you subconsciously feel welcomed. Information continued with specific findings. Let's have a look at the specific findings from the report that relates to information. When asked what the number one priority to drive accessible tourism is, the most mentioned was information provision. If you make it easy to find and are highly accessible, then you will increase the chances of attracting more customers to your business. 41% wanted information contained on review sites like TripAdvisor that was relevant to travellers with specific needs. There are many resources as to what these are, and you can look at these through our website. A subject brought up many times is the idea of introducing an accredited system that shows businesses that they have made the commitment and the implementation of accessible travel systems. This would be an amazing step forward. So you go to a website, you look for the 5 stars, and whoever's got a 5-star on that accredited website means that they are highly accessible and highly inclusive. If that business has got a 1-star, it means they're not. So people with disability and impairment can jump onto that website and choose where they want to go depending on the star rating. Now that's not something that's happening yet in Australia, but it's something that's happening in New Zealand, and we are hoping to get that started here in Australia for people. So that's exciting. When asked what the priority for improvements to this market was, 86% rated that the addition of more practical information is very important. This included locations of ACROD parking bays, toilets and accessible ramps. 83% rated an increased prominence of information on tourism and transport websites. So there's not enough information of accessible travel through tourism and transport websites. So if you're a business owner of those places, then definitely it's talking about you guys. So something to look at. Next, we will go over planning. Let's move into the next part of specific needs. People with impairment, especially those with mobility issues, have specific needs that, if not met, makes visiting a business or event impossible. With all of the effort and the cost it takes to plan a trip to go somewhere, lots of research is done beforehand to ensure that these resources are not wasted. 40% of respondents stated that not knowing what to expect was a barrier to travel, highlighting the benefit for more detailed information being made available while planning their trip. As you can see, there is a need for expert advice at the planning stage if you want to attract this market. Creating relationships and prompting your accessibility on platforms such as disability forums, peak bodies in the area, and specialist travel agents. Even the NDIS coordinators are all important people to be involved. Internally, you could appoint an accessibility coordinator, someone who... Sorry, my iPad just jumped then. Internally, you can appoint an accessibility coordinator, someone who is knowledgeable in all aspects of the accessibility within your organisation or business. This person would be responsible for answering all the access queries and create relationships. This coordinator would also address the next point in the research. Specifically, the research highlighted a strong preference to connect with a business or destination personally, either by phone or email. So this is talking about the report and the study has been done, and people with impairment and disability have said that they really, really want that personal connection to get the answers that they need. And I know that if I need a proper answer, I ring the business directly. I want to speak to someone and know that yes, they have that, or no, they don't have that. because over email and messages it can get a bit wishy-washy and miscommunication and stuff like that. That personal connection for someone, especially with a disability and impairment, is so important, because they definitely need to know whether you've got what they need or they can't come. So very important. So if you're not doing enough of that, please try and offer that to people. This would provide a potential customer with the information in a rapid and accurate manner, increasing the likelihood of converting it to a sale. That personal connection is so important. Traditional travel agents with strong service ethic could also be important in driving this conversion, particularly for older travellers and those who have lower support needs. Many clients had low expectations, so this advice could expand their interest and create demand for new products. Travellers with an impairment find it hard to be inspired when they don't know what is possible, and having an advocate for this would be a huge win. Let's now head into service. There are still many challenges with regards to attitudes and understanding from tourism, hospitality, event staff and those of the public towards travellers with impairment. This is especially a challenge for younger travellers with impairment and those who have hidden impairments who require support in less obvious ways. Top service by all staff is a key driver for recommendations across all travel categories. So educating your staff on what they can do for people with disability and impairment instead of people not knowing. Because, as we all know, good service drives customers to your business. Cost is another important thing for many travellers with impairment, as they need to normally travel with a carer or extra equipment, which makes everything a higher cost. Assistance with these costs, including potentially via the National Disability Insurance Scheme, or via a special deal and service for those with a carer, would assist people and remove those barriers to travel. This also would have a ripple effect in regards to ethical consumerism, as discussed in an earlier session. So a lot of people with disability and impairment do have carers, and the carers are full price again, so that's another extra person to pay for. Maybe you could offer a deal, the carer's half price or the carer's free. That encourages them to come out and test your business, try it out. And yeah, how inclusive would they feel if you did something like that? Okay, next is growing the market in the region. Major stakeholders who are involved. So we've looked at the opportunities and needs of this segment and what potential we can tap into. How are we going to grow this market? What needs to be done? Who needs to be involved? The opportunity to grow this market is a multifaceted project which all key stakeholders have a role to play. Who are these stakeholders? Let's have a look at who the major stakeholders are. First up, we have people with impairment, their families and their carers. There are people who will be served. They are people who will be served by this project, and having a direct understanding of their needs is crucial at every stage. They should be central to every decision made. Peak bodies that represent both tourism and the disability sector need to make choices alongside the people with disability to ensure that they know what the needs are and what needs to be met. Who else needs to be involved? Government on a state and local level to help with infrastructure. Destination management and organisations such as visitors centres and tourism and event service providers. These are all people that need to get involved to bring this together and to build a better future for every human being, no matter their disability or impairment or their age, nationality, religion, no matter what. Growing the market in your region. The stages. Let's go over these stages. This part is intended as an executive overview of the stages. It is in no means a how-to or must-do. We realise there is much more involved, but in saying that, let's go over these. The 5 stages are required to grow this market. They are consult, inspire and educate, collate, promote, and lastly build. Let's go over these stages. Growing the market, stage 1, consult. This should be the foundation of accessible tourism. It should ensure that what is offered is built on a rich understanding of what travellers with an impairment want and need. This is a responsibility for all stakeholders, but government and destination management officers can take the lead, as they have the resources and skills to undertake projects and research to then guide others. Growing the market in your region, stage 2, inspire and educate. Ensure that the industry has an understanding of the potential of this sector and is provided support on how to start targeting it. Government, destinations and peak bodies should all have a role in driving this. Further, many travellers with impairment have low expectations of what is available, while their aspirations for travel is high. The task here is to encourage them to explore and test the boundaries. Peak bodies and service providers can play a strong role here, and so can individual operators. So here is my boss Ben with his wife and his son Logan. Now, Ben was watching a friend one day about to abseil off this tallest building in Perth. And I think Ben said to his friend, oh, it'd be amazing to do that. I wish I could do that type thing. And someone heard him and everyone got together, the peak bodies, everyone involved in it got together and made it happen. So Ben, in a wheelchair, abseiled down the tallest building in Perth. So it just shows that if people come together and they communicate and they find out what needs to happen, how it needs to be done, you can make things happen. So there's no reason why you can't make things done. It's no different if you own a business or service. Let's now look at stage 3, collate. This is about bringing the experience together to provide a holistic offering in some key destinations will help the traveller plan and navigate their trip. Government and peak bodies in both tourism and disability sectors and service providers can all potentially play a role to help identify new areas of experience and product development or supporting infrastructure. Governments can work in the sector in a number of ways, including providing accessibility standards in the industry and developing infrastructure that considers the complete user's experience. So considers everything that someone with a disability and impairment may need, which is not happening enough. So let's get the ball rolling for that as well. Now, stage 4 is promote. Many travellers are not aware of what is on offer. Therefore, it is important to promote what is on offer to generate demand. The information needs to be easy to find, well structured, and provide the opportunity to develop further planning and build confidence in the experience of the trip. This is the responsibility of the individual business and destinations. So promote what you've done, promote the change, promote that you're now accessible, let people know. And lastly, stage 5 is build. While it's not the highest priority now, new infrastructure needs to be the subject of an ongoing focus, ensuring that any new infrastructure employs the universal design principles, which we go over in another webinar, which will make this opportunity more cost effective for the future. This is a cross-industry responsibility. So it's important for new businesses and companies to follow these standards, and it's also the responsibility of the people with impairment to generate this demand. So instead of having a building, you're opening up a cafe. Instead of having a building where you've had it built, for instance, or you're renovating, you've got to go in and make the changes for someone with a disability or impairment. But if you start at the beginning, you get it right from the beginning, within your building and getting it on the plans and all of that sort of thing, you're not having to make those changes afterwards. And unfortunately, there isn't anyone going around and checking for the accessibility for people with disability and impairment, which is crazy. We know of a cafe, brand new building, just been opened. The owners moved in and it wasn't accessible. So they had to spend extra money to make it accessible. There was a big high step where the ground wasn't even. It was even at one end and not the other end. Anyway, no one had gone and checked that. No one had made sure, a wheelchair, someone with a mobility issue couldn't actually get into that cafe. So if you get it right from the beginning, you go around and check everything, then you're not going to need to do those things afterwards. So that is what Build is about. And that is the end of the webinar. I hope that you enjoyed today's webinar, Growing the Markets, and learning how to attract more people into your business and accommodating their needs. So much more needs to be done, but it can have a snowball effect where if one company starts doing it, some hotel or motel starts doing it and promoting all these new things that they've done to be more accessible, then others are going to follow. And especially in this time with the COVID, there's lots of business that's been lost, and if you can target a new market, then that's a bonus. So why not be the first person to do it? So that is it for today. I am now going to hit the questions button if you have any questions. And for anyone else that is going, please jump into the link below and fill out the survey. But for anyone else, I will see you back in 5 minutes. Thanks for joining me. See you soon. Welcome back, everyone. There are no questions today, so that's fine. I'm doing this again tonight at 6 p.m. So if you know anyone that may benefit from growing the market in your region, webinar part 6, please send them along to me tonight. Tomorrow I will be starting back at the beginning, so we will be doing webinar part 1. So please join me for those and recommend anyone that you know might be interested. I hope you all have a good day. Take care of each other, and I will see you tonight. Thank you. Bye.